Arr, me mateys, welcome back to Trekyards. I be Captain Foley. Arr.
That is a truly illogical way of greeting our audience, Stuart. They do not know that you've swapped professions, and as such, you should make an announcement video before this goes out to tell them you will become pirate. Otherwise, this would make not liquor sense.
I'm still a pirate. Arr. I mean, a captain. I'm still a captain.
This explains how you became a captain by stealing it via the sea. A far more sensible way of having a catchphrase like that, Stuart.
Welcome back, guys. This is Trekyards. He's Commander Cocking.
He's Captain Foley.
Arr. Yeah, and today we're going to be talking about episode 7 of Strange New Worlds, The Serene Squall. And there be pirates here.
Mm-hmm. I've been waiting to put this on for a couple of weeks because we finally have a Spock episode, an actual Spock episode, so I thought, here we go. I will Spock it up for this one. Stuart, thoughts?
I really enjoyed this one. This was fun. I really liked the Captain Angel. I didn't think I would from the get-go, but she just kept impressing me. And even when the reveal was that she was a baddie, I was like, still enjoyed the performance though. And seeing more another Orion. I was hoping to see a Klingon. I hope they were going to call some in, and you're going to see at least a ship. But sadly, that was not the case. Overall, though, I thought it was a fun episode and very reminiscent of TOS. I thought because. It almost felt like Enemy Starfleet, the fan film, a little bit. But overall, I think it was a great episode and very, very much focused on the Spock character, which was great. And a little bit of a reveal at the end there, which was kind of nice. A little bit. Well. And, yeah. And we got more Chapel as well. So this was a pretty good episode. But again, absolutely zero sign of Hemmer. Like, he has been so marginal in these episodes, like, non-existent, practically. So I don't know what's up with that, but overall, I really enjoyed this one. How about yourself?
Well, as a brief aside, given his one space is the engineering room, and that room is the LED wall exclusively, and every other set's the LED wall, and it takes time to swap them out, I guess they're judging the need for these other sets. If they've got 6 days to turn an episode, you know what I mean? There's probably a sense of, well, we either commit to engineering, we can't just do one quick engineering skit. Anyway, I think probably my third favourite, and I may be able to be talked up from that. I wasn't fully into about a third of the way through, then it grabbed me more, but the cleverness of the 3 reveals made it feel way more interesting, and by the end I was fully in, and wanted there to be more, which I thought was a good trick. No, I thought it was very good. It was the most fan-filmy, as you've already alluded to, of all of them, because it was a true bottle show. The way they used the sets felt very, we have some sets, let's film on them vibe, which we haven't had yet. But also the atmosphere on the prison ship thing was so unusual, but kind of fitted. And if you're gonna find a way to force all of our crew off ship, give them some joke scenes is a fun way of making that bit still feel meaningful, even if it's not meaningful, unlike the Spock and Pike on the planet previously, which didn't quite work. To give Spock all the time, to give them such a weird side quest, was fun and kind of worked. The new character was, I was waiting for the thing to start, whatever the thing might have been with her. So I was like, okay, we'll see. And it built nice. I thought the reveal of the fake husband was a lovely. I thought that was the first good twist, and that might have been someone that Spock knew or something. And then the double reveal was even better. We've seen that sort of character before a few times, so the acting was pretty. Was not cliche but genre specific. Like we've seen that trope before, and I could tell instantly that they're going to be able to beam out at the end. It's like a female Mud in that respect. We want the continuing character. I got that instant reaction. Like, okay, this one's going to survive to fight another day, which is great, as it should do. And then at the end, I will say I did guess Cybok pretty early on, because context clues. So I was like, it's not going to be. But I thought, you know what, it might just be. And so it wasn't a surprise in any way. I was like, it's going to be Cybok. And even for the first scene, I was like, medical installation on Vulcan with people that can't do... Like, that they're the appropriate levels of clues, but I got it early on. So I was like, oh yeah, I guessed it right. Ha-ha! At the end. but I was still
I
just
didn't get
happy.
that till the end when he started talking about this, where he kind of clued into who it might be.
Yeah, I got it
I was like,
ages
oh,
before.
it's obvious now, but no, I didn't get it before that. But we got to see Ston as well, which was a nice little touch.
Although briefly, we have lots of these hunches, Stuart, so it's just I happened to have a hunch that was right. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like, oh, I got the one thing. But and yes, Ston, what a great, like, you can easily not hear her say Ston. The way she says it is not in any great inflection. But when you know, it's like, oh. So that's why they get close, because they work together.
No, there was a few good things in here, and I didn't expect a lot of them. So I'm glad for this one. It was a nice little complete package of just good quality content. But like you said, it did seem very fan filmy.
But not in a bad way, just the way it was, just the
Exactly.
something about the way it was shot was just a bit more amateurish, but in a fun way, like fan films are. I think something about, you know, like Nurse Chapel beating up people with a high base rate is a very fan filmy concept. And then double phasering at the end. Like, these are all like, you know, fun tropey things rather than what you'd actually do in the Star Treks of norm. You know, and once you get to, you know, Spock and alien person doing Die Hard on an Enterprise, it's like, well, that's what fan films do, just because they haven't got enough people budget for crew. So these are fine things, just a bit fan filming that way, in all these sort of tropey way. I wonder if the person who wrote this knows about fan films or kind of in that zone a little bit.
Possibly. But no, taking over the Enterprise is kind of a trope as well, especially in TOS. The ship gets taken over quite often. I'm surprised they didn't talk about auxiliary control room when he said we can transfer all the reroute everything to engineering. I thought, okay, that's cool, but where's the auxiliary control room? But you know, not a huge deal breaker there. So,
and they might not have one yet because the ship's radically redesigned from TOS, so maybe they add one later. But did you like how they use the backdoor codes like the Reliant?
Yes. Yep. That was amazing. Yeah. I really expected to see Hemmer pop up in engineering though when they got there.
Yep.
Sadly, that was not the case. So.
Or anywhere else. I mean, it could have been any scene with any, you know, sense of, oh, he was taken prisoner or something. Yeah, and the command codes is a bit of an easy cheat because as soon as the Enterprise crew comes in, the story's over, and it's insanely quick, but it kind of works pace wise. They achieved something special there, I think, with pacing, but because we know what that means, at least we do, you and me, as a context, it worked really well.
And no Tholians, despite what a lot of people thought. It was just like a laser net trap. So,
well, it's still Tholian tech though, clearly implied with, well, that's not our trap. So they're presumably in Tholian space. They just don't know it yet because they haven't met Tholians yet. So I thought that was great. Great with having a reference, having a, you know, a deadly trap without actually having the Tholians, and it teases them in appearance later on. Cool, great, perfect, lovely. And it's nice because then it forces the double twist of the lady being a villain. She actually has to help them get out because it's not her plan. That's not her plan. So you're forcing the audience to have a common goal for a scene, which means you don't think she's going to be dodgy, which worked really well as well. So that was nice. That was important actually in the pace of it.
Yeah. There's some good quotable lines in this one, like, how close do you want to get? First date, third date, how about blind date? I love that one. That was great. But yeah, I mean, Ortegas... actually, when Spock went to the quarters with the music blaring, I expected it to be Ortega's quarters, honestly. And he was coming to ask her for advice about T'Pring. So... wasn't a letdown that it wasn't. I just, as soon as I heard the loud music, I just assumed Ortegas. But, you know, she had some good lines in this one, and you know, kaboom. I mean, just gotta say, kaboom.
Yeah, she's definitely the one-line character. She hasn't got any sort of actual depth, but her one-liners give her the depth that she has. It's very strange.
It's very likable, for sure.
Oh, yeah. Excited to see an actual episode with her in it, rather than her in it. I didn't know who the music was going to be, although anyone except... All I thought was, wow, that's very un-Starfleet of them, because that would not be allowed. Oh, it's not Starfleet. Okay, cool. So they actually addressed that instantly. Was fine and fun. I don't know if you caught it, but there's a moment which was on the trailer, which was actually I did a separate live because you were busy on the phasers, the first introduction on the new phasers, and there was that shootout in the bridge, and I was looking at that in this for the reference notes, and I don't know if you noticed, but they change. They're also shooting on different days, or they just weren't continuity as much. But both number one and Ortega's phasers go from stun to kill, the lights at the back between takes, between cuts. So I was thinking, why are they always going for kill. When Pike beams down to the planet, it's set to kill. When every time they want to kill people first, it's like Starfleet would stun first. Why they're always on kill, but in some of those angles on stun. So the director knew enough to make. So I guess they forgot to turn the lights back to stun. But it's like, guys, stop murdering people. You can't learn anything if you kill them flat out. Which is then sad because the other people then said to be using stun. So in that situation, it's the Starfleet that are going for kill. Starfleet, shoot to kill. Come on, guys, make it blue. It's always red. Come on. Always don't include the lights. Tell us what it is if it's always going to be on kill. Jesus Christ.
Exactly, yeah. Are you sure it was set to stun and maybe not set to stun? Sorry, I had to. When you were talking about stun,
you didn't have to, and that makes you the captain, Stuart. You really didn't have to.
Arr, matey. Yeah. Even Pike's little pirate imitation at the end, and then no one was just like, "Please stop."
Embarrassing, yes, embarrassing. What do you think of the? I guess now the canon. Where are the phasers? They're in secret holsters underneath the consoles, rather than in like little, literally holsters taped to them like old worldy shotguns. What do you think of that?
Though I didn't catch that necessarily. I wasn't sure where the phasers came from. I saw Spock pulling them out of a case.
That was good. So for the captain's chair, they're behind it, kind of. There's a little cubby hole back, but she just pulls it out, so it's clearly just accessible. And Ortega's, you know those classic films where they have a taped gun to the bottom of a desk, and you just pull it out, it's just that. That's what Ortega's phaser is. You know,
I don't know how I feel about that.
It looked really dark.
Well, I mean, going into unknown space and non-Federation space, I can see them implementing that. I don't think it's standard operating.
I was going to say, it feels like she's decided to put a phaser there, but I felt Captain would be like, Ortega's got a phaser taped to the desk. There should have been a little like box, like It was a bit daft, but maybe that's just her exception to the rule. But obviously, and also, why was the tactical officer firing phasers from another station when the tactical is actually at the front? Why isn't tactical at the front firing phasers?
Yeah, that little round thing that she just targeted.
The big phaser button. This giant circle enclosed that says phasers.
I mean, transferring controls to other stations is a thing that happens, but yeah, I don't know.
But clearly she always sits there, because... But then number one's at Chekhov station, but Ortega's is flying it, but not firing phasers. That was a bit odd. I don't want to give, I guess, Lan a line, but she shouldn't be firing phasers, necessarily.
Well, the station that number one's at is usually just security, which is Ortega's job as well, so... that being said, I mean, in bridge crew, that is the tactical side. So that's your photon torpedoes and your phasers. But in TOS, we see Sulu firing phasers.
That's what the thing that goes up is. It's tactical.
Yeah.
It's tactical scanner.
So it's kind of weird where everything is placed at different times.
I think they forgot this week, Stuart.
Wow.
Because they got all of them wrong.
No one will notice, Samuel. No one will notice.
But it's not one of those things you actually notice innately. It's just something in your brain says, well, that's a bit odd. But now after the episode being so good and debating and discussing, it's like, oh yeah, that's a bit odd. That's a bit odd. But all the same thing, it's nicely bridge sequences because they've been doing a lot of off-world, and I quite like a bottle show because it lets you focus on the sets, etc.
Yeah, I wish engineering would have played a bigger role. That ended up very quickly. But
I wish engineering was just smaller.
Oh, and Jeffrey's tube. We got to see a Jeffrey's tube. Looked amazing, I gotta say. And it was nice seeing the Jeffrey's tube. It looked exactly like it should. Well, I mean, it looked very, very, very good for TOS reimagined Jeffrey's tube. Let's put it that way. And we got to see that twice, which was great. So, more Jeffrey's tube.
Yeah, I thought it was we have seen it, and it was one of the teasers, so it was known. But yeah, can't say anything not nice about it. It's a great tube. Hope we see it more. Maybe miss the piping that should be somewhere in the corridors, because it's just missing that Sorley, that the thing on the ceilings.
It would be hilarious if one of these episodes they need to do damage control and they're like, "This would be easier if these were behind panels." Just as a next iteration of the ship, they're going to be more accessible.
Well, speaking of, I want to give them again credit for the always using view screens and always using screens to communicate. There's not been a single hologram. And we know Pike removed them for Enterprise as a gag, but it's so refreshing and so nice just to see simple screen communication because it creates such a focus point. It'd be so much weaker, I think, thematically, if T'Pring was in full hologram walking around Spock's quarters trying to phone sex. It's like, well, at this point, it's basically just, you know what I mean? That's quite a lot better. And then when T'Pring walks in, it wouldn't be quite as powerful. But having her not be on set with a screen, as it's always been, and then coming in, the impact is 10 times more. So, you know what I mean? Like, the effect is regained, and they haven't even shied away from no view screen window, just view screen, and no holograms at all. They've completely removed those from the topic, and it helps so much. Which also reminds me as well, we can have distance again when it comes to communications, which they haven't mentioned again ever, because they're out Federation space, so instantly the communication beacon situation, great, because TOS was always about going out beyond. I loved it.
Now, I think a lot of people are going to complain that, the edge of Federation space is a 2-day delay to get to Starfleet, whereas in TOS, a lot of times they'll say it's 2 weeks to get an answer back. But you got to remember, TOS is years later, so they're probably exploring further and further out.
Well, Pike's on a 5-year mission, because he's clearly available to go anywhere and talk to anybody. He's exploring, in a Federation, just out edge, whereas Kirk is, out. So I thought that was a really nice way of sort of bringing it back in. It's Federation space, everyone can communicate, but as soon as you go out, no, you can't. That said, they win 10 points for that, but they lose 10 points for same day from Vulcan ship warp, which should take at least 2 or 3 weeks. Because there has to be a time jump there, but I don't think Spock's standing on the bridge for 2 or 3 weeks, which I thought was, there's no way she happens to be on a Vulcan colony on that edge of the quadrant.
Well, they did say it wasn't Vulcan. It did say the third moon of something when they showed that.
It's not 3 hours away. It's going to be days and days away. So I thought that was particularly egregious. Such a strong episode. Having the instant warp of Star Wars was a letdown. I don't know how you'd have time jumped it, because you can't really thematically. But don't do that then. That was definitely a loss.
Yeah, I never even considered that, but you're absolutely right.
So it feels like it takes minutes. The way it plays, she's still on the captain's chair. It's like, I'm just having fun. Hey, she's here. At least she did warp in the Vulcan ship from Discovery, and they never showed again. At least they we have a design, we're not proud of it, we're going to ignore it.
The Orion captain was
good.
A good look. I enjoyed that whole, your crew's malnourished and playing the crew against each other to do the mutiny thing. I thought that was well done.
It felt, again, like she was the female Mud, and so that's the Mud style antics. Dancing in front of the androids, cooking for the crew. Similar vein of let's give the other crew alternately funny. It was almost too silly, but it held on just enough that it was fun. So I have no complaints, except, would have been nice to see a Klingon, or, calling a Klingon would have been a nice touch on a screen.
Even one on the view screen, yeah.
Yeah, but then since he's not the captain, already it doesn't, he can't do that, which I thought was a little bit odd. I know the lady says he's not a captain, but why does I need one shot of her and the actual captain and him talking? Because is he acting captain? Is he the cook? Is he second in command? We get no sense of what he is or what he's doing. Why can he take the crew to sell to Klingon without lady's permission? Or is it a case of once I get the Enterprise, I don't care about my crew? There's a disconnect there of as soon as those stories were separate and they stayed separate, but if she's the captain of the crew, they need to converge at one point and they just didn't. So again, a weak point there, but I'll forgive it despite the not so good storytelling there. But yeah, if he was the captain and she was the second captain or whatever, or an admiral, higher rank than captain, then it should have been a shot of him talking to a Klingon on a view screen. It's like a famous Klingon we know. It's like Cord or Kang or Koloth, like oh my god, wow, that would have been like the epic moment. Flagship. I want it as garbage. I want to haul that thing away. So what? What do you mean?
The only other thing I want to point out is that when you see Pike steering the ship, it's like a big old steering wheel of an old sailing ship, which was kind of funny. Again, going back to that pirate thing. And then can you please get us out of here first? Because, we took over the bridge a little prematurely, and I thought that was good. I could definitely hear Kirk saying that. Please get us out of here.
Well, it's kind of an insurrection callback as well. They're clambering on the bridge with 8 minutes of air left. Can you get us off briefly? That said, Captain Pike orders to shoot the impulse engines and thrusters, and Ortega shoots the warp nacelles. So I think she might have to go back to training because she just didn't follow orders, and you need the warp engines more than the impulse drive because she just didn't fire on them. And that's just VFX error. They just didn't. Either they didn't know or they didn't care because they didn't shoot the impulse.
It matched with the on-bridge display of the cells being hit.
It did, but not once did they hit the impulse drive. And you can tell, they did show that being damaged. That was just a VFX gaff, just like with the continuity error of the two phaser settings. I mean, they're allowed to happen, it's just I wish they'd noticed that, because if you're adding in the weapon effects, just add one more in to shoot the actual impulse engines, because the warp is not the thrusters, is not the impulse. You don't have either of those.
It did fire 4, so you got 2 hitting like just glancing the impulse deck at the back of the saucer, and the other 2 hitting the impulse or the warp nacelles would have been all right. But small little thing, but yeah.
But when you call out in dialogue, specifically, they didn't say you shoot the warp nacelles. It's just an error, just a VFX error, just a blunder they should have corrected. But speaking of not blunder, bringing back Cybok, I've been calling for that since Discovery. The fact they never mentioned Cybok once in all the 4 years of the whole story was shocking. So to go full on in, I've been calling for Cybok to kind of, utilize that canon forever. I think I mentioned it a billion times to you. Like, it's such a possible story there. I thought that was beautifully handled. The fact that I guessed made it both anticlimactic and climactic at the end. Like, I was right. But also, is he going to be the overarching Season 1 antagonist? Is he going to be Season 2 antagonist? Is he going to be not used at all? Almost. They can go anywhere with it, really, because there's enough time between that and 5. I mean, 5's are like 20 years away, 20, 30 years. They've got plenty of time. And for him to go from, Vulcan to extremist, I'll happily see that journey. Cool. Love it.
And the fact that he's told Angel a lot about Spock, because she does say, he's talked a lot about you. So that was kind of a nice little tie-in. So, yeah.
Are they actually dating? Is it actually for love? I mean, Cybok's girlfriend is a crazy pirate lady. Cool. Sweet. Or is it just a cult leader? I don't know. I mean, were these pirate... I kind of assumed, based on the garb, because one of the clues was the costuming and the fact that when the gun Spock grabs is very cylindrical, felt like the guns they use in Star Trek 5. They're kind of like the rock shooters. Very basic weapons. I kind of thought, are these Cybok's disciples, early ones? Because it kind of had that vague vibe. But was she his girlfriend, then she made in bed with pirates? Was she already a captain of pirates, and he was Cybok's leader? Like, there's a lot of story they can tell there. And I'm super interested to see where it goes, because, you don't introduce Cybok after 35 years without being a big deal. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, and that being said, Captain Angel, I'd be happy to see her come back. I really enjoyed the character. Both versions of her I thought were really good, so more please.
Yeah, this was probably the most serialized one of them, because it had a lot of the T'Pring Spock stuff, it had a lot of Chapel stuff, it had a lot of the new Cybok stuff, so it was the most overarching arc. And in fact, it justifies the inclusion of T'Pring as such a main character, because they set up very early on that she is part of this thing to help Vulcans who can't deal with emotions. So it all factors in, and the only reason we know it all works. So I'm really happy to see it was not just because it was all tied together. Really happy with that.
Well, that's all I can think about to talk about today, guys. So by all means, if you like this video, please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and be part of our crew. Do it. And join us for the lives on the poop deck, where we talk about all this kind of stuff. And you guys can join the conversation.
Yes, have deep, fulfilling, logical conversations in the chat down below. Put all the thoughts in bullet points with very properly formatted structure, because anything else would be illogical. You've got to spend the time carefully constructing comments. No one just types and posts without thinking. And of course, for us for the lives, where we talk about all these topics as well. Super chatting if you can, because that supports the channel. Or if you want to go monthly, Patreon and joining the channel on YouTube, both amazing ways. And this is how we live, how we support ourselves, to make sure we do this content for you every single week, as we have for 30 weeks now non-stop. So it's a bit of a crazy whirlwind. We want to keep doing it. We need your support. So if you can, please do. If you can't, just comment down below. It helps the algorithm.
And don't forget, super thanks down there as well. So if you can't join us for the lives, you want to help us out with these edited videos, super thanks is there as a way to do so. So please consider that as well. So, until next time on Trekyards, he is Commander Cocking.
He is Captain Foley. Bye, guys.
And we'll see you later, mateys.